Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you, as I love to do, every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio in 250-plus markets across the United States of America, and, of course, nationwide on ESPN Radio, Sirius XM style. Channel 80. Number to call up, as always, is 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Got a jam-packed show coming your way today. Got some NBA games on the docket tonight. Washington and Charlotte. I'm watching that because I'm waiting for Bradley Beal to hit a shot in the fourth quarter. That's just me. But I'm a fan of his. I'm a fan of John Wall. But I want to explore why they can't get any big-name free agents to come there. I want to talk about Anthony Davis and what you believe the Boston Celtics should do in order to get their hands on them, or what the Cleveland Cavaliers should have done in order to get their hands on them. Because any one of them get Anthony Davis, you're talking title contention, if not an NBA championship, as far as I'm concerned. That's something we'll get into today, along with the subject of the great Drew Brees, who is a free agent, who has been on the record stating he has no interest whatsoever in exploring free agency. He wants to come back and be with New Orleans. My whole point is not to bring up 50 Cent or anybody like that, but I don't see anything wrong with a little window shopping. I really, really don't. This window shopper mad at me. I think I know why. Absolutely. I don't have a problem with it. Zero. Absolutely not. So that's something that we'll talk about as the show progresses. But for now, it's time for some Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. In light of what transpired a couple of nights ago, more than 36 hours ago, inside the Staples Center in Los Angeles, California, CP3, Chris Paul, Trevor Ariza, James Harden, and most of the Houston Rockets players reportedly tried to storm the Los Angeles Clippers locker room to get at Austin Rivers and Blake Griffin before they were turned away. As I reported here yesterday on the show, Trevor Ariza was supposedly the ringleader. Chris Paul was right behind him. According to members of the Clippers organization, Chris Paul did nothing to stop the incident or to squash it at all. Obviously, the reports are indicating that Trevor Ariza was the aggressor, whereas James Harden and Trevor Ariza tried to restrain James Harden and CP3 tried to restrain Trevor Ariza. So depending on which story you believe, that's what's out there. I'm not here to judge anybody. I got a lot of love for James Harden. I think he's a superstar in this game. I think that this game should value him, and we all know how I feel about CP3. He's a future Hall of Famer, one of the greatest point guards, miniature point guards to have ever played this game. Can't conduct yourself that way. You can't be the president of the Players Association remotely involved in a situation like that. That's my only knock against CP3. The fact that you have the title that you have. So it comes with an elevated level of responsibility that even if you did try to squash it, and even if you did try to play peacemaker, somehow, some way, reports got out to the contrary, and you can't even let that happen when you're the president of the Players Association. That's all. I have nothing else to say remotely negative about CP3, because as far as I'm concerned, he's entitled to his emotions. Because being that great, you're the Los Angeles Clippers, you have to value him to a point where he doesn't want to turn down over $200 million from a billionaire Steve Ballmer because he doesn't want to play for the coach Doc Rivers or with his son Austin Rivers. You just can't let that happen. You just can't let that happen. Having said all of that, that coupled with last night's incident in which Minnesota Timberwolves player Aaron Aflalo tried to throw a haymaker at a member of the Orlando Magic, that's a problem. That's an absolute problem. He's going to be suspended, no question about it, because of the punch that he threw. But there's a bigger question that comes into play here. And the bigger question is, does the NBA have an image problem? Let me tell y'all, I have a message. Even though it's on behalf of the NBA and it's on behalf of an abundance of folks who love the NBA, they will never say this. So I'm going to say this. All of you naysayers out there about the brand that is the NBA, you can go to hell. I'm going to say it again. Go to hell. Don't you come to me with no nonsense about the NBA. The most successful global brand in sports, as far as I'm concerned, filled with an abundance of model citizens, who spend far more time than most people give credit for being assets and contributors to their communities throughout this nation. I'll be damned if I'm going to sit up there and let somebody talk about the NBA in that way. You can go to hell. All of your phony, two-faced critics out there looking for an excuse to label these guys in a negative fashion. You got a lot of damn nerves. Does it get much better than LeBron James as a role model? How about Dwayne Wade? How about Carmelo Anthony and the work that he's been trying to do in Puerto Rico? And Tim Duncan, a former five-time champion and a retired player, by the way. Everywhere you turn with the NBA, players, coaches, and beyond, you have people being assets to one community after another. These players in the National Hockey League, even though they don't fight the way they used to, they can punch each other in the face, bloody each other's nose, try to stomp people out. Oh, that just comes with the sport. Major League Baseball, you got dugouts emptying and melees taking place. Oh, that's just baseball being baseball. That's America's pastime. We'll suspend them, but for the most part, they can police themselves. But far be it for an NBA player to get into something all of a sudden. Hey, Stephen A., do you think that we need to have the discussion about the problem in the NBA? I mean, Stephen A., come on, it really needs to be addressed. I mean, the violence. Really? Really? Do I have to really elocute my thoughts? Do you not comprehend? Is it an accident that the NBA is more than 70% black? Is it an accident that the NFL is about 70% black? That's why we got to sit up here and have these issues? Really? You got to be crazy. Y'all must be smoking something. I will not allow anybody to sit up there and try to label the NBA in a negative light. Stuff happens. Fights happen. We get all that. But don't you dare try to sit up there and say, yeah, it ain't really a problem. It's anger management issues. They really need to hash it out. Maybe they could go into the timeout corner. I mean, what is that? When y'all gonna say that about baseball players? I love how this issue, for example, and I'm going to go here. I love how this issue, because, listen, I was raised by 5 women. Not that the NBA has anything to do with this at all, what I'm about to bring up, but I'm trying to make a point. Remember how from Ray Rice to Ray McDonald to the Greg Hardy on down, issues of domestic violence in the NFL. Fair enough. That stuff was going on in Major League Baseball. I remember stuff being chronicled about Bobby Cox, the former manager for the Atlanta Braves. You barely ever heard anything. And it was going on for years. And that's just one of several examples involving Major League Baseball. We ain't hear a word. But a black dude has bad breath and it's news. Nah, that's not happening on my watch. It's a new day. It's a new day. I don't know why the hell ESPN decided to give me this national radio show. You done messed up. Because I'm here to tell you something. I ain't taking that. The NBA and the NFL, their problems are bigger than nobody else's. You ain't tainting them that way. And there is no image problem with the NBA. You should be thankful you have the National Basketball Association with all the work that they do in the community. With all the good that they do. And I got news for you. I don't think Chris Paul is guilty of much. But even if he's guilty of misbehaving with this situation with the Los Angeles Clippers, you can't find most players, most professional athletes in history with a better record as a human being than that man. Have you met his parents? Do you know his brother? Do you know his family member? Have you seen his lovely wife and kids? Do you know what that man stands for? You will not get away with that. And by the way, Aaron Aflalo ain't a bad dude either. He just has to get suspended for what he did. Y'all got a lot of damn nerves. You really do. 888-729-3776 and say ESPN. That's just one item I'm getting into. The other item is the blasphemy. The outright blasphemy that is taking place in the streets of Pittsburgh. Minority owners without a controlling interest. This is according to Mike Florio of Football Talk. Rob Centrone, Paul Evanson, Larry Paul, Stephen Paul, Bruce Rana, Paul Sams, John Stallworth, Benjamin Statler, Scott Swank, David Tepper, Thomas Dole, Peter Verichetti, Mike Wilkins. These are minority owners of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and evidently a few of them want Mike Tomlin fired. 116-16 record. Perpetual playoff team. Super Bowl champion, 2 Super Bowl appearances. Teams are better in the second half than they are in the first half of the season. I am willing to acknowledge that Mike Tomlin has underachieved, but that's only because of his standard. Not because of ours. If it ain't Bill Belichick, who the hell should have want Mike Tomlin as a coach? And these sniveling, weak minority owners with their sorry, trifling, talking about getting rid of Mike Tomlin? Oh, man, I'm so happy to have this radio show. I'm so happy. 888-729-3776. 888-SAY-ESPN. In case you haven't noticed, I'm just getting started. That was Straight Talk Wireless nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. I appreciate your business. But with or without you, the world is going to hear me this. You going to mess with Mike Tomlin? Oh, I can't wait. Back with more in a minute. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show. ESPN Radio.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Looking in the store. Stand by. Window shopper. Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. 888-729-3776 is always the number to call up. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Listen, under no circumstances am I trying to pretend that Mike Tomlin is flawless. He is not. There are mistakes that have been made along the way. There are things that have been left to be desired along the way. People want to bring up the onside kick. I personally didn't blame them for that, to be honest with you. I can understand why people should have insisted on it because it put Jacksonville in good field position. And so as a result, they were able to, kick a field goal and secure the win. But the bottom line is this. Mike Tomlin didn't believe in their defense because their defense was wetting the bed all afternoon long. And if I hold them accountable for anything, is that year after year after year, whether it's in their secondary or their ability to get at the quarterback, it's been a huge question marks continuously. And considering the fact that 4 Super Bowl titles were won with the Steel Curtain, Mean Joe Green and L.C. Greenwood and Mel Blount and Jack Lambert and Jack Ham and the crew, considering that all of that are things that led to Super Bowl championships. I mean, it's the Steel City. It's synonymous with the Steel Curtain. And that hasn't existed in the Mike Tomlin era. That's my beef. But having said all of that, other than Bill Belichick, there isn't a coach I'd rather have. He finds a way to win. They're relevant. I mean, you got to be kidding me. Talk about getting rid of them. Mike Tomlin has underachieved because of his own standards, which he and I have spoken about personally. Every time I've interviewed him, it's about that Super Bowl. And he's sick to his stomach that he comes up short. And yes, he's come up short every year since 2008, even though they went to the dance in 2010 before running into that bad man that Aaron Rodgers is. But it's not like this man deserves to lose his job. You got to be crazy. And go ahead, Steelers. Get rid of Mike Tomlin. It'll be about 25 to 27 other teams looking to hire him. You go right ahead. You go right ahead, you fools. 888-729-3776. 888-SAY-ESPN. We're talking about that right now, plus the supposed image problems of the National Basketball Association. You people make me sick. Some of you just make me sick. Image problems. Please. Carlton and Tampa. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, buddy.
Oh, man, I saw the Mike Tomlin segment to start off your first take show, and I just shake my head. I literally just shake my head. The last 4 years, he's 45-19. He's gone to the playoffs every single year. This despite the fact that he's got a pass defense that has ranked in the bottom third of the league over those 4 years, okay? And whose fault is that? Might I suggest Kevin Colbert, the GM of the Steelers, has been there the whole time?
That's a good suggestion. That's a good one.
Defensive coordinator Keith Butler, who can't get these guys within 5 yards of a receiver half the time. Do you know in their 4 playoff losses the last 4 years, the other team has completed 63.4% of their passes, has 6 touchdowns, no interceptions, 8.05 yards per pass attempt. Off the charts. I mean, it's just been like a throw fest on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And they had an opportunity, as did every other team in the NFL at the beginning of this 2017 year, to go get Malcolm Butler, who was a restricted free agent, and they neglected to do so. They could have gone and poached him from the Patriots, and they didn't, and they kept Mike Mitchell back there at safety. Of course, Butler plays cornerback, right. But they could have gotten rid of Mitchell and saved his decent-sized salary and gone out and shored up that pass defense, and they didn't do it, and Blake Bortles, of all people, throws for 8.2 yards per pass attempt and puts up 35 freaking points on the Pittsburgh defense. And now people want to fire Mike Tomlin? Are you kidding me?
38 points, not 35, 38 points.
Oh, you're right.
Put up.
You're right, 38. And by the way, that onside kick was the right move. The 95% of the commentators have said, oh, that was dumb, including Max Kellerman. That was the exact right move. Pittsburgh, if they had executed it properly, and Jacksonville recovers it, Jacksonville's going to get it on the 47 or 48-yard line of Pittsburgh. Oh, if they give up a first down, the game is over. So even if they got 8 yards starting on the 48, that would have put it in the 40. No way Jacksonville's going to try a 58-yard field goal. So the Steelers were getting it back. It's just that it was such a badly executed
like Tomlin said.
And then there was a penalty. That's the only reason Jacksonville.
Hold on, Carlton. Just like Tomlin said, if the guys had executed the way they were supposed to execute, we're not sitting here having this discussion. And he's absolutely right.
Exactly. So this is nonsense, but it just shows the absurd, superficial level of analysis that a lot of these yappers on sports media kick out day after day after day. Anybody who thinks Mike Tomlin should be fired from being a sports media analyst.
Well, I'm going to assume you're not talking about me, Carlton, because you call in here all the time. So thank you, buddy.
No, I know. You didn't call for his firing today.
Thanks a lot, buddy. Take it easy. Have a good day. Let's go to Micah in Cali. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me. What's going on?
Stephen A., pleasure talking to you again, man. Thanks for taking my call.
Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch base on what you were talking about, KD and LeBron yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not ready to give KD the KD era, the best player in the NBA right now. Nobody is. What we're saying is, let's not change that. Nobody's saying that. What they're saying is, what if he wins the title this year and wreaks havoc doing it? What if KD, think about this for a second. I'll pose the question to you this way, Micah. What if KD, who's arguably a leading candidate for league MVP honors right now, what if Kevin Durant wins league MVP and wins the championship and wins NBA Finals MVP by averaging 35 on LeBron again? Then, yeah, I would have to give it to him.
There we go. That's where we are.
But I mean, LeBron right now, 15 seasons in NBA, averaging, 28, 9, and 8.
Yeah.
We haven't seen anybody do this in the 15th year ever. So that's why I just got to keep LeBron at the top right
Okay. Now. All right. Appreciate the call, Micah. Thank you so much. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. More to Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio in a minute.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Back to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio, 250 plus markets across the United States, plus Sirius XM, Channel 80. Number to call up as always is 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. We'll get back to your calls about Mike Tomlin, and minority owners wanting him out in Pittsburgh. along with the NBA and its supposed image issues, which is just bogus to me, a bogus story. We'll talk about that and more as the show progresses, but not until I speak to my next guest. He's the co-host, Morning Drive, 710 ESPN LA. Of course, he's a former member of the New York Jets, a Super Bowl champion with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers under John Gruden, former Dallas Cowboy as well. I won't hold that against him. I'm talking about my buddy, the one and only Keyshawn Johnson. He's on the line with us right now. What's going on, big time? How are you, man?
What's happening, man? Stop bragging about being in 250 markets.
What's wrong with that? I'm just letting the world know that I'm in 250 markets. What's the problem? They hearing you right now, ain't they? Yo, King, listen, man, let's get right to it because I got a couple of things that I have to ask you. The news just came out literally during the commercial break. I just saw it anyway. Todd Haley is out as the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Your thoughts about that?
I think it's a little ridiculous, but I also understand when things don't go according to plan, somebody's got to be the fall guy. And a lot of this, a lot of it smells like Ben Roethlisberger to me. But I'm on the outside looking in. I really don't have all the intimate details. Mm-hmm. But it sounds like a situation where you got the quarterback kind of throwing people under the bus slightly, and then how this noise started to happen where you score, you're the third offense in the National Football League. Your career has certainly been on the upswing since Todd Haley's been the offensive coordinator. You've played crazy. Now all of a sudden he's not good enough because he was the side of the ball that gave up 50 points to the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's Todd Haley.
Last 4 years, Steelers made the playoffs. In terms of yards, they ranked second once, third twice, and seventh, not this season, but last season. That's the offense under Todd Haley. So, I mean, people,
that's pretty dynamic,
impressive.
Wouldn't you say?
That's pretty impressive. But it says to me also that, evidently, I get your point about Big Ben, but have you ever had any issue with Todd Haley's play calling at all?
No, I really haven't, because I guess for me, to be honest with you, I kind of understand what the offensive coordinators are asking in terms of dialing up plays. Mm-hmm. You take, for instance, the 4th and 2 when Big Ben tried to throw across the middle to Juju Smith.
Right.
That play's not designed to throw down the middle of the field. It's designed to check it down. It's a design play to check it down. Get the first down. Just check it down, get the first down. That's all you got to do. You don't have to be the hero. So a lot of times when we see that as viewers, the first thing we say is, why would Todd Haley call that play? Mm. Why would he call that play? That's what we say.
I got you. Keyshawn Johnson right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Let's move on to some other subjects. I haven't had an opportunity to talk to you since the Rams got bounced out of the postseason by the Atlanta Falcons more than a week ago. What were your thoughts about this season? What happened to them come playoff time?
Well, I think you got, number one, it was a terrific season. I mean, I had them winning 5 games. They certainly won the division. Jared Goff finally started to look like an NFL quarterback. Todd Gurley was an major MVP candidate. Sean McVay came in with his little mini Gruden act and put things together and got them into the playoffs. But the inexperience kind of hurt them. They'll never tell you that, but you can certainly see some of the mistakes that they were making against the Atlanta Falcons that they didn't realize the tempo of the playoffs was going to rise a little bit more. And next time around, I think they'll be more prepared with a little more experience to be able to take on a team and advance further into the playoffs.
What do you mean, for a second? Let me go back to your initial comment. What do you mean his mini Gruden act? Mini John Gruden, I'm assuming you were talking about. What does that mean?
Man, he reminds, I tell him all the time. Sean McVay remind me so much of Gruden. When he calling plays, just his voice, because we get him on the air with us a lot because he's here in L.A. Every time I listen, I got to listen real careful because I ain't sure if I'm talking to John or if I'm talking to Sean. And you remember, Sean was with us in Tampa. Right. He was actually one of our little, he was one of the managers of the football team with us. So I tongue and cheek him all day long about being a little mini group.
Keyshawn Johnson right here with Stephen A. And by the way, Keyshawn Johnson will join Boomer, that's Chris Berman and Tom Jackson, on Championship Sunday edition of NFL Primetime. So make sure y'all don't miss it. Speaking of Gruden, I haven't had an opportunity to ask you about your former coach, your former Super Bowl champion coach, landing the job with the Oakland Raiders. Look, Keyshawn, I ain't mad at the man. I would have taken the money as well. Please don't get me wrong. 10 years, $100 million guaranteed, bonuses that escalated to 120 from what I'm hearing. Could you explain to me why Oakland would feel the need to give him that kind of money, those kind of guaranteed dollars, when a man hasn't coached since 2008, and the 6 years prior to that, it was a 45-51 record, 0-2 in the postseason. Could you explain that to me?
Well, I think Stephen Smith, that, they have a great relationship in terms of understanding who he is, and Reggie McKenzie. Now, look, I know the reported numbers are 120 million, I can almost certainly guarantee you that it's not a fully guaranteed contract. There's some outs in there somewhere. I mean, he's getting a handsome ransom for however long he's going to be coaching, but he hasn't forgot how to coach. Even though he's been gone away from the game for a while, he's still kind of been around the game on Monday Night Football. So you would think hiring certain coordinators and assistant coaches that have been in the league could certainly help, that learning curve that this team is going to learn under with a new head coach. So I'm not really overly concerned with that. I think more so when you're paying a guy in upwards of whatever the numbers truly really are, it's a lot, that hasn't really been around coaching for a while. What are you expecting if you're the Oakland Raiders? Are you looking for instant gratification, or are you willing to wait several years to get into a deep run into the postseason? Or are you looking at this and saying the AFC will eventually be wide open because Tom Brady is getting ready to walk away at some point in time?
And Big Ben.
And Big Ben and the staff. So now it's the perfect time to strike.
And I'm thinking, so then, therefore, you shouldn't have any problem with my expectations that if you're going to pay the man $100 million, he should deliver a Super Bowl within in about 4 years, shouldn't you say?
4 years. If they paid him $3 million a year, 4 years is plenty of time with that roster to advance deep into an AFC championship caliber football team with 4 years. You don't even need, you know what I'm saying? Any coach with 4 years with that roster that's worth anything should be able to get them to an AFC championship game.
Gotcha.
In 4 years.
Gotcha.
I mean, think about it. In 4 years?
That's right.
I mean, how much are you really going to change? Carr ain't going nowhere. Crabtree ain't going nowhere. Cooper ain't going nowhere. You may address the running back issue to some degree. You got the highest paid offensive line. It's still pretty good. So you're really not addressing a whole lot. Maybe the secondary, maybe a linebacker or two.
Okay.
That's pretty much it.
Works for me. Keyshawn right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Let's get to these conference championship games. Jacksonville, New England. Who you got and why?
I'm going to take New England, obviously, man. They playing at home. Not only are you playing against the New England Patriots, you're playing against Foxborough. You're playing against possibly guys that wear stripes, and I ain't saying who they are. I mean, you play, it's a lot. You stacking the deck when you going up to Foxborough thinking you fit to beat Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. That's just not something that they do. They don't lose at home, in particular in the playoffs.
Any issue with the Steelers running them out before they played Jacksonville last Sunday?
No, because that's not bulletin board material. All that is for people like us that do sports talk radio and television to come on after they lose and say, see, they should have been quiet. Because grown men don't feed off of stuff like that. Because if Pittsburgh would have won the game, we wouldn't even be saying nothing. We would just be like, oh, Pittsburgh wasn't going to lose to them a second time, yada, 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 yada. But because they lost, we now can sit up there and point to them saying something and losing the game.
Listen to Keyshawn using words like us and we as it pertains to the media. I'm very proud of you, big boy. I'm very, very proud. Let's get to the NFC. Well, go ahead. Say what you got to say.
That was a slip up.
I know.
Was a slip up on my part.
I knew it. That's why I brought it up. What about the NFC Championship game? Philadelphia hosting Minnesota, the luckiest team alive as far as I'm concerned. Philly hosting Minnesota. What's up?
But why you say they lucky?
Oh, because
what
of that last play. Come on now, Keyshawn. Look, man, I'm in a good mood. Don't you start with me. You know good and damn well that touchdown to Diggs. I mean, Marcus Williams, God bless him. He's just a rookie. It's a mistake. He'll have a bright career. But a mistake like that, how lucky can you be if you're Minnesota? Stop it, Keyshawn.
If he open his eyes, it ain't a mistake. You can't hit nothing you can't see.
Oh, Lord. Really? Really? That's where we going? That's where we going?
Open your eyes, son.
All right.
All you got to do is open your eyes. You hit the dude. You open your eyes. He closed his eyes. Anybody that played football and know football can tell based on his approach and his body that his eyes were closed. We don't get that camera shot because it's all from the back end.
Right.
But he certainly closed his eyes. And, yes, at the end of the day, it was pure luck. You know, it's been a luck fest for them. Think about it. Teddy Bridgewater goes down a couple years ago. They bring in Sam Bradford. The team looks really good, playoff run, the whole deal, yada, yada, yada. Now, all of a sudden, Bradford goes down. Case Keenum comes in, and he looks like Aaron Rodgers. So it turns into a situation where they play great defense. They're at home. If they can force Nick Foles into making some mistakes and turnovers, because he's thrown a lot of interceptions, guys just aren't catching them. If they can hold on to him, then Minnesota, I believe, will be playing New England in their own home field. They won't have to leave at all. They can ride right up the street, stay in their own homes, come Super Bowl time.
So you're predicting Minnesota's going to beat Philly in Philly Sunday?
No, it's in Minnesota.
No. I'm saying to you, Minnesota comes to Philadelphia this weekend for the NFC Championship game. You think they're going to win that game?
I do.
Oh,
I do.
Look, man, you go back and do your TV, man. I can't wait to see you and Tom Jackson.
But you're a Philly guy.
I'm not a Philly guy. I'm from New York City. Watch your mouth. I'm from New York.
You're a Philly. You covered the Philadelphia. What is it?
That's right. I worked for
the
the Philadelphia Inquirer for 17 years. Yes, that was true. That is true.
I don't need all them years. I just know you worked for them.
All right. There you go.
I know you covered the Eagles when we smacked them. I know that much.
I know that much. You saw me in the locker room after the game, too. You ain't got to rub it in, though. You ain't got to rub it in. Bye, Keyshawn.
Wait, hold on, though.
Go ahead.
Check this out. What you think about the minority owners wanting Tomlin out?
I think they're insane. They got a lot of damn nerves. It's a disgrace. 116-60 is his record. As many years as he's taken them to the playoffs, he's a Super Bowl champion. If Mike Tomlin deserves to be unemployed, a whole bunch of coaches should be fired. That's my take.
No, but you know what, though? See, I'm the type of dude, as soon as I start to hear that chatter from Mike Tomlin, first thing I'm going to say is, if that's what the Roonies want to do, let's make it happen. Because I know I'm going to get another job.
That's true.
Too good of a coach to be on the streets. Like you said, it's a whole lot of jokers that need to be fired as head coaches if Mike Tomlin going to be on the street.
Amen, brother. Amen. Appreciate you, man. Can't wait to see you Sunday night. Take it easy. Keyshawn Johnson, he's going to join Boomer and Tom Jackson on Championship Sunday edition of NFL Prime Time. Boy, do I miss Boomer and Tom Jackson. And Keyshawn, by the way, even though I hear him all the time in L.A. But I miss Boomer and Tom Jackson. I can't wait till Sunday night. I just can't wait. That's must-see TV, Boomer and Tom Jackson doing post-game highlights. I'm here to tell you that right now. More of the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio in a minute.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. It's presented by Progressive Home Insurance. Getting a quote is easier than ever before. Jeff in Hollywood, real quick, go ahead.
Okay, man, first of all, man, love, man, I just want to say, if Mike Tomlin was of a different persuasion, it'd be a whole different conversation. It wouldn't even be a conversation about him being fired or anything.
I agree.
But the other thing I wanted to deal with was my man Chris Paul. I got respect for him, and I remember yesterday you were talking about him, and I got an issue that I just wanted to bring up.
My brother, you got 30 seconds, so go ahead and make it.
Okay, 30 seconds is this: Chris Paul he's going to be a Hall of Famer. We're not going to deal with the fact that he don't have no rings. But when you said one of the greatest to ever play the game, that really stuck with me, man.
Miniature point guard.
That stuck bad because you got cats like time.
That's your fault. We lost your signal. Had you made your point a few seconds earlier, you'd have got your point out. But you weren't ready. I said greatest miniature point guard. I didn't say greatest play ever. Greatest small guard. One of the greatest small guard ever. Tiny, Isaiah, Iverson, him. Hour number 2 was Steve.